This is Tall Tale TV, your podcast for sci-fi and fantasy short stories. Implant, written by Roger Ley, performed by Chris Herron. My patient, John Smith, sat in my office at the hospital, looking alert and healthy. He'd come a long way from the unwashed, raving, homeless lunatic that the police had brought in 2 months ago. We called him John Smith, as we still hadn't identified him. Things are much better now. I don't hear the voices or see the rolling colors while I'm awake, but it's the dreams. They seem so real, so meaningful, he said. I wasn't too concerned about the dreams. One has to expect side effects from any drug treatment, and John's quality of life was so much improved. It's a matter of striking a balance, John. We're trying to pick a path between heaven and hell, between the devils and the angels. I still remember nothing from before I came here, Dr. Oakwood. Just odd flashes of people and places, but it's all so disconnected. It's all to do with my brain tumor, I expect. He didn't have a brain tumor. He had something else inside his skull, something denser than a tumor, but less dense than bone. I'd seen nothing like it before, and neither had anybody else as far as I could tell from the medical databases. It sat on the surface of the brain, at the back of his head, close to the visual cortex. It was circular, about 10 centimeters in diameter, thicker in the middle than at the edges. A series of filaments radiated from it, branching and rebranching into John's brain until they disappeared beyond the display resolution of our equipment. One of the main filaments was broken, and mysterious as it was, I felt that was where the trouble lay. "Tell me about your dreams again," I said. "It's always the same. First the music, then the rolling colors, then I'm in an office, sitting across the desk from this woman." "What does she look like?" "It's difficult to guess her age. Between 30 and 40, I'd say. She has blonde, bobbed hair and blue eyes, and tells me that her name's Farina. She's attractive, conservatively dressed, and looks like a professional." "And what does she say to you?" "She says my implant isn't functioning properly, that she can't contact me while I'm awake. She says I've been sent here from the future, that I have a very important job to do." "Does she say what it is?" "She explains in great detail, but when I wake up, I can't remember." "John, the growth is putting pressure on the sensory parts of your brain. It's not surprising you're having lucid dreams and hallucinations. Try not to worry. If all goes well tomorrow, we'll remove the problem, and everything will return to normal." "And will my memory come back, Doctor?" "I have every reason to hope so, John." It was one of my stock phrases. The procedure was textbook. We shaved his head. I looked for scars from a previous operation. There were none. The object must have grown in place. I'd been wondering if it was part of some secret military project gone wrong. I incised the scalp, peeled back the skin, and being very careful not to penetrate the dura, used the circular saw to cut loose a square section of skull. As I was preparing to remove it, the power failed. There was a pause of a few seconds as we stood frozen in total darkness before the lights came on again. That wasn't supposed to happen. We have uninterruptible power supplies that can carry us for the few seconds it takes for the emergency generators to kick in. "He's flatlined," muttered Abrams, the anesthetist. We waited while he did his frantic best to bring John back, but it was no good. He was gone. I lifted out the section of skull, and all I found underneath was a circular indentation where the implant had been sited. It's always distressing when you lose a patient. I've never got used to it. I changed out from my greens and went back to the office to write up my notes. There was no sign of John's computer records. No copies of the x-rays or scans. Nothing. Probably something to do with the power cut. I'd had enough. It could wait until tomorrow. I made my way home to a large whiskey and an empty bed. Next morning, there was an email from one of the forensic databases. They'd finally identified John from his fingerprints. They matched with the government scientist called Martin Riley, who'd been killed in a road traffic accident 2 years before. His car had fallen from the Woodrow Wilson Bridge into the Potomac River. His body had never been recovered. I decided to take another look at my patient and made my way down to the morgue. The gum-chewing attendant checked his screen and announced that the body had gone for cremation the previous night. Unusual, but not unheard of with an unclaimed corpse. So, nothing left. No evidence of our time traveler or his implant. After I left the morgue, I stood outside the entrance for a moment, thinking about John and his dreams. But I had another patient to see in 10 minutes, so I hurried back to my office to read the case notes. Implant is one of the stories in Roger Ley's speculative fiction collection, Dead People on Facebook, which has recently been republished with 10 new stories in it. Roger also recently released a brand new techno-thriller novella called The Muslim Prince, now available on Amazon Kindle. It is an alternative history that hinges on futuristic surveillance techniques and what might have happened if Princess Diana hadn't died. Also, be sure to check out his brand new book, The Steampunk Adventures of Harry Lampeter. It's an adventure in a post-apocalyptic steampunk future version of our own world. Links in the description. Hey guys, hope you liked that. Another great short story from Roger Ley. If you did like it, he's got tons more on the channel that I'll link to in the description. I've always kind of liked the idea of time travel getting messed up along the way. Somebody goes back to fix something, and it doesn't work the way they intended, so now they have to send somebody else back to fix it again, and just on and on and on. In fact, I saw a theory not too long ago that I thought was really clever, that 2020 is so horrible because time travelers keep going back to fix it and keep making it worse each time. If you did like this story, and you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, make sure to leave a comment or a like. Or if you're listening to the podcast, you can head to iTunes and leave a review. But, of course, make sure to subscribe. I'm Chris Herron, and that's it for today's Tall Tale TV.